What's the woke problem that you're struggling with? Explain that part to me.
It's an absolute concession to right-wing talking points and right-wing thought.
So here's where we're going to have our disagreement.
Yeah.
Is in the definition of woke.
Defending trans rights is essential.
Defending trans rights.
That's what they call woke.
Oh, I disagree. Yep.
I think you've fallen victim
Okay.
to the right-wing narrative, which isn't your fault.
I do watch a lot of Fox News because
CNN has, MSNBC has, a ton of Democrats have, so it's not...
I think we have to defend the right of a human being to make the decision, to have the freedom to make the decision to go see their doctor and decide to take hormones and live life as
I agree.
an opposite gender of the way. We have to
I agree.
defend those rights.
I agree.
100%.
100%.
We have to defend those rights.
We then have to protect their right to exist equally in society.
Absolutely. They should be able to get a job and have a family and get married and do all the things. Absolutely. Where I draw the line is
The critique I have is the acknowledgement of weak and woke.
all right. Explain that.
I think weak is fair.
Right. You said that.
I
but-
think Democrats have an issue of not being aggressive.
Yeah, you've said that.
We've talked about it.
What's the woke problem that you're struggling with? Explain that part to me.
It's an absolute concession to right-wing talking points and right-wing thought. A complete concession, which in a sense is a complete concession of most social policy that helps distinguish Democrats as Democrats.
So here's where we're going to have our disagreement.
Yeah.
Is in the definition of woke. That's where we're
The
going to...
fact that she's even conceding woke is her concession to the right wing's idea of woke.
I think that the things that the right are saying are woke probably generally are okay to let go of. Or to at least not make it kind of like a pillar, a foundational pillar of our campaign strategy.
I'm going to hard disagree.
Well, okay, but
I want you to, what do you like? I can have an example.
well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, what are you talking about when you say woke, and what am I talking about when I?
Oh, okay.
What are you hearing
So-
when you hear woke?
Pam Bondi seeking the arrest of the Maine governor for not complying with an order to ban trans athletes, I think is an issue.
Okay.
Pam Bondi being the
Yes.
Yeah.
The Attorney General.
the Attorney General, the AG,
So
U.S. Attorney General.
the U.S. Attorney General under
So-
Trump. Right. She's
the highest
law enforcement
officer
Yeah.
basically in the country.
She wants to prosecute.
She wants to go after Maine's governor
She wants to go after the governor
because
of
the
Maine.
governor of Maine isn't listening.
Is allowing trans athletes.
Yep.
Okay.
And I can follow this to I think, a very sensible conclusion if you would like me to continue.
All right. Maybe, yeah, go ahead and play out the thought.
So we go from only men vote, only landowners vote, land owning men,
Okay.
to all men, to white women, to all women, to voting. That's one section of progress. And now to just like social acceptance and legality. All of that happens, then it's only straight marriage. But then it's like, okay, it's not illegal to be gay anymore. Okay, if you guys want to kind of have a civil union thing, whatever, we won't immediately hang you or whatever. Now gay marriage is legal.
Right.
Which then opens the door to maybe trans people aren't the devil.
Okay.
Leading to a little more acceptance.
Right.
So the same, it's a singular road
Right.
of progress, and they're walking the opposite direction of us. There's no branches of the road. It's one road of progress. And so if they're pushing back on the front, which would be trans rights, the next step is gay rights or women kind of in the same level. Is their pushback. Definitely that's like, they all believe that when they all talk about it,
Yes.
including, like I'm talking about like government officials.
Right.
So we're not far, clearly they don't care about anybody. So we're not far from that becoming a reality.
Okay. That's, boy, what an alarmist take.
I would say defending trans rights is essential to protecting civil rights.
So I think there's
As a whole.
I think there's a difference, and here I think is the difference of our definition of woke. I think we got to the core of it. You made the point. Defending trans rights.
That's what they call woke.
Oh, I disagree.
That's what I see all the time.
So
Okay. Yeah, what do you think?
So why woke is a bad word is Woke, to me, in my understanding of the use of it, is the most extreme version of trans things. Like a man is a man until he's 23 years old and he's 6'5", 240 solid muscle, then decides to become a woman and then is now identifies as a woman. And maybe he had his penis chopped off and he's gone through the whole surgery and he's like whatever, but still trans, but still in a man's body. And now he's playing in women's sports and she now dominates.
Let me ask you a question.
So, but first,
I have a question for that. Continue.
Okay.
I won't stop.
Is it the federal government's responsibility to get involved with matters like that? That's my first question. Why can't the NCAA determine what the rules should be about sports? Why is that a federal government thing? Because that's very specific. That's a very tiny slice of what I would call trans rights.
I think you think that because you don't know all of it.
Well, if businesses start to hang signs that says we don't serve trans people, then to me that starts to infringe more on rights. If they say a trans person isn't allowed to get a bank loan, if they say a trans person isn't allowed to vote, like to me.
Let me put it in an ickier term for you.
Okay.
You aren't allowed on the swimming team because you're black.
Sure. Right.
That would be bad.
That is definitely bad.
What's different?
It is different. That's the problem that.
How so? Okay, so let me ask you a question. So you said a question of 6'5", 240-pound man
that
transitions.
That becomes a woman and is now allowed to play. And
when has that happened?
I mean, it hasn't happened much. It's only happened, I think, like 2 or 3 times that was in the news, kind of big stories. But here's.
Oh, okay. So hold on.
Yep.
I think you've fallen victim.
Okay.
To the right-wing narrative, which isn't your fault.
I do watch a lot of Fox News because
CNN has, MSNBC has, a ton of Democrats have. So it's not a you failure. It's like the media ecosystem failure.
How has the media ecosystem failed me?
So if you've acknowledged that it at most has happened twice.
Yeah, it hasn't happened much.
Twice in a country of 300 and nearly 50 million people.
Right.
Seems to me that that's not an issue.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
So why is the right making it like a linchpin of their campaigning? That's the issue, right? They've used it.
It's the same thing as they're coming to get your
lever.
guns. It's the same thing. It's just another version of that. Now they're going to let men play in women's sports. You know, now they're going to rip babies out of wombs that are so
capitulating to that narrative. Well, the critique, the issue that people on the right have, aside from them thinking it's gross and like if you're trans, you're a pedophile, which not substantiated with any evidence.
Right.
We'll continue.
Right.
Is that it's impossible for you to transition because they don't understand the distinction between sex and gender.
Okay.
Which is a distinction. That's the issue. So if they're saying a trans person can't play in women's sports because they're still a man, that thought invalidates everything surrounding trans rights because it all hinges upon, is it possible to transition? And so if they say trans people can't play in women's sports because they're still a man, that applies to every single trans issue unilaterally.
Okay.
It's not an unfairness advantage. It's unfair because they're still men.
All right. So, all right. So I think we have to defend the right of a human being to make the decision, to have the freedom to make the decision to go see their doctor and decide to take hormones and live life as an opposite gender of the way. We have to defend those rights.
I agree.
100%. We have to defend those rights.
We then have to protect their right to exist equally in society.
Absolutely. They should be able to get a job and have a family and get married and do all the things. Absolutely. Where I draw the line is it's not the government's business, one way or the other, about such a specific subset. To my point, it's only happened 3 times. Why are we legislating this at all? I'm not taking a side. I'm just saying if it happens so little, why are we governing this in the first place?
That's interesting.
It's a Ron Paul take on it. That is not the government's. Why are we wasting millions of dollars And all this time and energy on something that you said happens so infrequently. I agree. I don't even know why the government has its big fat nose in this. Let the state handle it. Let the governing body of the athletic association handle it. Let them work that out.
Yeah. So to that I say, if the right, which they are trying to make it illegal to transition and be trans or ban them from basically existing in society.
That is
you're allowed to transition.
That's problematic.
You are not allowed to do anything. So therefore, can you even really transition? They're absolutely trying to do that. That's observable.
But that's what we have to push back on.
If your passport does not match your claimed thing,
I know.
We all know.
I know. The government says there's only two genders.
Arrested. I think you can be arrested in Texas.
Yes.
So definitely they're doing that.
Yes.
If you take the position of it happens so infrequently, I'm going to sit by and chill. That's just as bad as participating in the oppression. So if oppression and discrimination is happening actively, passiveness and like non-involvement is just as bad as the oppression.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not passive about it.
Would you say
I stand firmly for trans rights?
That
firmly.
Means you have to stand firm with that as well. It's the same. The issue they have with it is the issue with them existing.
Look, I'm in government. I'm in government. I'm not an activist. I'm not the athletic association.
This is the question then.
Governing body. So
why do we protect their right to transition and exist otherwise in society, but it used to be the bathroom bill, right?
Right.
And now it's the sports bill.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
Why does the line stop there?
What do you mean? What line?
The line of protecting their rights stop at sports. As an example, because it's the popular one right now. It used to be the bathroom one, right? It used to be bathroom.
Because it happens so infrequently.
So then why not just, okay, yep, you're good to go. Check.
I mean, just like I said, I don't think it's the federal government's
then what if you
responsibility to get involved with that part of it.
You don't believe that?
Oh, no, I really do believe that. I really do believe that.
I'll propose, I think, something you would agree with more.
Okay.
Texas
Please convince me.
Wants to throw a this is hypothetical.
Right.
Texas wants to throw a trans person who's played sports, who transitioned at a young age and therefore doesn't have any developmental advantage.
Sure.
Which is true like 99% of the time.
Sure.
Very rarely
right.
do they truly have an advantage. But
yeah,
wants to throw them in prison for 10 years for because they claim it's a man in the women's locker room. So you're being a predator, sexual assault. Texas has made up rules. This is hypothetical.
Okay, yeah.
Texas has just made this shit up.
Fine.
I say
yeah,
that, sure, if the NCAA wants to regulate it uniquely, fine. Then the federal government should say, you are not allowed to pass a bill against it. Only the NCAA can make a decision upon it. I think you can get behind that. Because I don't think you'd want to throw a trans person in jail for literally an amount of time for doing that. For participating in
some athletic event.
A sport opposite of their birth sex or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Birth gender.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think you want that. I think you care about people.
If a state goes crazy, goes
Texas
ham,
is one day away.
Right. Okay. So
in Florida.
If Texas or Florida goes ham
right.
and starts arresting people for things like that.
They're already starting. So let's say they take the next step.
Well, yeah. Well, that's when we have to push back. Like we have to push back strongly. So we have to defend it.
So I think the federal government should pass a bill saying you cannot pass laws dictating this. You have to leave it to the NCAA.
Well, I think that goes a step beyond.
I think the federal government needs to step in.
Yeah, I mean, because I think this
is the critique with the argument largely.
Yeah,
I agree with you. The extent is not the same. So I'll acknowledge that up front. The scale is not the same. Mm-hmm. It's the same argument libertarians use with the Civil Rights Act. Uh-huh. Why is the federal government getting involved? We should leave it to the states. Let them decide. They know how to govern their states best.
Right. I
agree that it's a scale difference.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
It's the same argument, though. Regarding a civil rights issue, the federal government shouldn't be involved.
Well, but it isn't the same thing because rights were being taken away from black people. And so laws
are being taken away from trans people.
Not the same rights
in
that
Texas,
black people were fighting for.
You can be arrested.
That's different. If that hypothetical happens, then that's
happening.
Well,
Texas passed a law.
What? That?
If your ID
yeah.
has a different than you're assigned at birth,
Sure.
you can be arrested. That's already happening.
I mean,
in Texas. So where's the line?
I mean, that could be the line. That could be the line. That sounds like a complicated legal issue, and I feel like I'm not in a place.
I don't know the law itself.
Like
I know it passed.
Right, but yeah, okay, but that. Okay, so
I don't know the statute.
Sure. So that feels like a good example of something where, like, if you're going to imprison a person for something like that, that sounds to me like you're taking their rights from them.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I feel like in a circumstance like that, there has to be something, some sort of
some kind of protection or whatever.
Yeah, like a protection, like a civil rights act.
Yeah. Final question. It could be quick. So can you truly have the freedom to transition if you're being slowly but systematically barred from participating fully in society as you or me might?
What was it? Can you
fully experience the freedom
of
being an individual?
Right.
And all the civil rights you're entitled to.
Right. If
as me, right?
Right.
I'm entitled to all the civil rights I can participate. If I transition, magically several of those disappear simply due to the transition. That doesn't seem entirely fair civil rights wise.
Right. I agree with that. I generally agree with what you're saying. I think that we have to have a line in the sand which is very, very close to the edge of if any rights start to be removed, then we have to get our boundaries up really quick, legal defensively and, legislation, elections and legislation and all of that. And we have to talk about it. And I'm glad we're having a talk about it. So, we'll raise awareness on this.
Yeah.
So my problem is that the right uses the most extreme examples of these things as election points. And
a bludgeon for sure.
And I feel like it would be smart for the liberal coalition, the Democrats, to abandon the most extreme examples. Like, I don't think we need to defend a trans person's right to have a drag show in a public school. And I don't think that we need to defend the right of a man who was 26, then transitioned, and he's 6'5", 240, but he's now a woman and he doesn't even have his penis anymore, just like I said. I don't think that we have to defend that right. So I think where the line in the sand is the dialogue that should always be happening, because I think we agree 99%.
Yeah.
The 1% that I'm struggling with is the very fringe stuff that gets 90% of the attention. But it loses us elections. It distracts all of us, all of the 99%. It distracts the 99% from the real issue, when the real issue is that we're part of the 99 fucking percent.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
I will add my close.
Add your close because I gave you mine.
My observation of it is that if we capitulate on the fringe, we are in principle capitulating on the 99% of it. I think just inherently the critique is that way. I think the approach should be the LBJ civil rights approach. I imagine if LBJ were alive and he was kind of socially conservative, but like understood, no, we're past.
What are you going to say?
The civil rights bill is what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of a thing of like, no, we're going to pass the goddamn trans bill right now. And we're going to have him voting Democrat for 40 years. He would have said the not nice version of that, which I will not do. I'm not a bad person. I think it's only a weakness because people who talk about it largely are so timid and sensitive on the subject and don't want to like offend somebody about it. I think if the Democrats came out and like, no, we're passing the damn trans bill tomorrow. Here's it's on the docket. And just were like a bull, just like, no, we're just doing it. Sorry. I think it would change the discourse. That's my opinion of the approach.
I like it. I mean, look, we have to have our opinions and we have to have this dialogue, and we're definitely going to get comments on this one.
I hope so. This is far better than I imagined this section would be. I appreciate the dialogue, sir.